What if the reason people laugh at you is the same reason you win in the end? Sounds strange, right? But stay with me. In a world where you are constantly told to be seen, heard, and validated, there is a unique kind of power in choosing not to explain yourself. A power that belongs only to those who don't mind being judged or even laughed at. That's what I want to talk about today, the power of being misunderstood. And to explore this, let me introduce you to one of the most misunderstood characters in anime, and that is Koenji from the classroom of the elite. At first glance, he's eccentric, arrogant, and just plain weird. He doesn't try to blend in. He acts like royalty, talks like he's in a Shakespeare play, and doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. Most of his classmates and even the viewers view him as a joke. But here's the twist. Koenji is no fool. He's a character who is widely misunderstood, and yet he's one of the most powerful players in the entire series. And that's what we'll be discussing today. And in this video, I'm going to break down 4 unique ideas that show you how being misunderstood can actually become your strength and how you can use it for your own self-growth. So let's get into it. External validation is a trap. Let me tell you something that might sting a bit at first. If you need to be understood by everyone, you have already given up a part of your freedom. And honestly, that's the beginning of a quiet prison. A life ruled by the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, and the fear of being seen the wrong way. But then you look at a character like Koenji and you realize he's completely free. Yes, he's eccentric, unpredictable, and loud, but he's completely untouchable. Why? Because Koenji doesn't seek validation from anyone. He doesn't care if you misunderstand him. In fact, he actually allows you to, and that's his power. There's a particular scene that perfectly captures this idea, and it's during the special exam on the deserted island. While the rest of the students are panicking, strategizing, and breaking their backs trying to earn points for their class, Koenji straight up walks off, just vanishes, no explanation, no justification, and everyone assumes he has given up. But in reality, he just pretended to be sick, not because he was lazy, but because he didn't want to play a game he didn't believe in. He didn't need the class points, he didn't need the approval, he just didn't care about being seen as useful. Interestingly, by refusing to prove himself, he ended up proving exactly who he was. But not on anyone else's terms, but rather on his own. Now let's bring this to real life. Say you're someone who wakes up at 5 AM to study or work out. Your friends joke about it, call you boring, and may even advise you to live a little. You try to explain, but they laugh it off. Now imagine you stop explaining, you just do it. And 6 months later, while they're still in the same place, you are miles ahead. You didn't argue, you just became undeniable. That's what external validation does. It steals your clarity from you, but when you let go of that need, you gain focus, consistency, and freedom. Now, if you want to dive even deeper into this idea, there's a book I highly recommend, and it's called The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koge. It's based on Adlerian psychology, and it basically says that freedom begins the moment you stop seeking approval. It breaks how so much of our suffering comes from the desire to be liked, accepted, or understood by others. And it teaches you how to live a life that's driven by internal goals rather than external praise. The same kind of mindset Koenji embodies without ever needing to say it loud. So the next time you feel misunderstood, pause and ask yourself, do I really need them to get it? Or should I just keep going? Because at the end of the day, the loudest success often comes from the quietest confidence. And then comes obscurity is a superpower. There's something deeply powerful about not being understood. Because most of our lives we are told to express ourselves and to be seen. But what if the need to be seen clearly is the very thing that's holding us back? You see, obscurity is a superpower. The less predictable you are, the harder it becomes for others to influence or control you. And no character captures this better than Koenji. If you have watched the anime, especially season 3, you will remember that in one of the particular scenes, Koenji goes off into the forest on his own and starts hunting a wild boar. Yeah, an actual wild boar, while everyone else is busy worrying about their tests and strategies. Meanwhile, Ainokoji follows him and tries to stop him by grabbing his arms. And this is where the unexpected twist occurs. Koenji calmly looks at him and says, I know who you really are, Ainokoji. He doesn't say it with aggression, and he's not even threatening. In fact, he adds that Ainokoji doesn't need to worry because he has no plans to reveal his secret. And that's when Ainokoji realizes that Koenji cannot be manipulated. He doesn't play into the system and he doesn't care what others think. He exists beyond the framework in which everyone else is trying to survive. And that right there is the power of being misunderstood. When people can't pin you down, they can't control you. When they don't understand your motivation, they have no idea how to stop you. Now let me tell you how this connects to real life. When I started my YouTube channel, I didn't tell anyone. No posts, no announcements, and no cloud chasing. Just me, my laptop, and a quiet promise to myself that I'll talk about it when I get monetized. No one needs to know about the process. And it took me nearly 2 years to get my channel monetized. No one saw the late nights, the failed scripts, but when I finally told my friends that the channel was monetized, their reactions surprised me. They said things like, "Wait, do you actually have a channel? I was thinking of starting one too." But the truth is that they never saw the struggle, only the result. And that gave me an edge. Because while they were hesitating, waiting for motivation or approval, I was already doing the work in silence. And this is why obscurity is a superpower. Because you are free while no one's watching. Free to learn, fail and grow without the pressure of judgment or expectations. People misunderstand silence as a weakness, but in reality, silence is a strategy. When no one knows what you're building, they can't destroy it. That's the asymmetric advantage Koenji operates with. And that's the exact same principle I used without even realizing it. So if you're working on something, whether it's your dream business, your art or yourself, don't rush to make it understood. Let the world think whatever it wants. Because when you finally show up, it will be too late for them to catch up. Next up is mastery looks like madness early on. You know what's funny? Mastery never looks like mastery in the beginning. In fact, when you're chasing something big or different, it often looks like madness to everyone else. People don't clap when you start. Instead, they stare and question you. Does he even know what he's doing? And that's exactly why being misunderstood can be your biggest advantage. And that's why I love talking about Koenji, as there is a moment in season 3 that explains this perfectly. And it's during the math quiz test where students from different classes are given 10 questions of increasing difficulty. As the class stressed over the test, Koenji did something completely unexpected. He sat there without even lifting a pen. The students started to panic. They thought he was messing around again, not taking it seriously and putting the whole class at risk. But when the most difficult question came up, Koenji casually gave the correct answer. No calculations, just a smooth, effortless solution. He even commented that it was an amusing little pastime for him. See, to everyone else, his silence looked like laziness, but in reality, it was a sign of how far ahead he was. He had mastered something that others had yet to understand. Therefore, what looks like madness was actually a mastery in disguise. In real life, your version of this might not be a math problem. It may be someone learning AI programming intensely in their room for a year, while their peers scroll endlessly through reels or chase trendy certifications. To the outside world, that person looks disconnected, antisocial, or maybe even lost. But then suddenly, they release a tool or startup that goes viral and everyone else is shocked. But what they didn't see were the thousands of hours when that person was misunderstood, working on skills no one cared about until it worked. And that's the lesson here. You can't expect people to get you when you are operating at a level they haven't reached yet. More importantly, you shouldn't wait for them to understand before moving forward. Your effort won't always look productive, but if you know what you're doing, that's enough. There's a book that captures this concept nicely, and it's called Mastery by Robert Greene. It talks about how great masters such as Leonardo da Vinci, Mozart, or even modern innovators were all misunderstood in their early phases. They were called strange, obsessive, and unbalanced. However, their obsession enabled them to eventually create something that the world could not ignore. Green explains that mastery isn't about talent, but about the long, often invisible road of deliberate practice which few people have the patience for. And therefore, the early stage of mastery often has to look like madness to everyone else. So the next time someone misunderstands your obsession or questions your methods, ask yourself, are they seeing madness, or is this just what mastery looks like in its early form? Number 4. Rejection filters out the noise. You know, we often grow up believing that rejection is a bad thing. That if people don't understand us, if they ignore us or call us weird, it must mean there's something wrong with us. But what if that rejection is actually doing us a favor? What if being misunderstood by people is not a curse but a way of removing the noise and the fake support around us? Think about it. When you are misunderstood, you don't fit the template that people are used to. So automatically they distance themselves from you. And that hurts. But it also tells you something very important, that those people were never meant to walk the path you are on. They don't have the vision or the patience to see you who you truly are. Therefore, their absence actually creates space. Space for those who do get it, space for your own clarity, and space for your true voice. Koenji as an example from the very beginning stands out. Not only because of his loud, flamboyant personality, but because he refuses to play the social games that everyone else in the class is obsessed with. He doesn't chase approval, he doesn't form alliances, he doesn't even care to explain his actions. And because of that, most of his classmates either ignore him or think he's some kind of lunatic. But Koenji never doubts himself. And here's the twist: when the real pressure hits, such as in survival tests or psychological games, the same people who dismissed him begin to realize that this guy is no joke. He is competent, strong, and he didn't need a crowd to validate him. He filtered them all out by simply being unapologetically himself. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Rejection isn't a weakness. It's a process of refinement. It sharpens your circle not by adding people but by removing the wrong ones. You might feel alone, but you are not. It shows you who is in your life for convenience and who is in it for your truth. You are just in the quiet part of growth where only the real ones stay, and ironically, that's the part where you grow the most. There's a book that captures this beautifully, and that is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. In this book, the protagonist, Howard Rock, is an architect who refuses to conform to the popular taste. He's misunderstood, ridiculed, and even blacklisted, but he stays true to his vision. And in doing so, he doesn't just create better buildings, but also redefines what success looks like. It's a heavy book for sure, but it dives deep into the idea that true creation and originality are often born in isolation, and that the people who matter will show up not because you changed for them, but because you didn't. So if you're feeling misunderstood right now, don't rush to change the image people have of you. Let them misunderstand, let them walk away, not because you are better than them, but because you are busy becoming who you are meant to be. In conclusion, the next time someone misunderstands you, do not rush to explain. Because maybe, just maybe, that misunderstanding is your shield, your power, or even your biggest advantage. Koenji never tried to fit in. He never begged to be seen. He stayed true to himself, and that made him unstoppable. Therefore, if you feel like people don't get you, that's okay. Let your silence be your strength, and let your actions speak louder than your explanations. In the end, being misunderstood might not be a curse. Rather, it might just be the clearest sign that you are onto something great. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.